All right, another Oscar winner on the ropes now as he turns himself into NYPD on sexual assault charges. Cuba Gooding Jr. facing allegations of forcible touching of a woman at a New York City bar this past weekend. The actor planning on pleading not guilty to those charges. This comes as a spate of high-profile media personalities facing similar allegations. So joining us to discuss all of this, our panel today, we've got Deanna Lorraine out of LA. She's a lifestyle and published relationship expert, and Reese Esq. She's an attorney and founder of Babes in the Workplace. Ladies, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Good to see you.
So Cuba is released right now without bond. His court date is set for June 26th. The bar security camera footage shows his interactions with the woman. He clearly does touch her thigh and later moves up to her breast. What's in question, though, is whether or not the woman initially welcomed it. So, Deanna, I'll start with you. What's your take on this?
Well, look, I think that I never want to minimalize sexual assault or sexual harassment, right? But whatever happened to the days of if a man was being rude and crude and drunk to you at a bar, saying no, a firm no, or throwing a drink in his face or slapping him or something, but just being a strong woman and saying no and moving on with your life. I mean, does it really warrant a criminal charge against you and calling the police afterwards? Does it really warrant the guy having his life or career destroyed? And I do think seemed to be some flirting going on beforehand as well, and that there was some back and forth engagement. So it leads a lot of guys and men to believe that, is there any line between flirting now and sexual harassment, or is any kind of flirting that they think might be inviting and now going to be ruining their lives now is going to be considered sexual harassment? Because for women, it seems like the bar continues to move every day.
Right. Reese, what about that? Because we're not sure. I mean, the footage does show that the woman sat down and was kind of flirty with him, and it seemed to be okay at the moment. And now, now there's this charge against Cuba Gooding Jr. What do you think?
So the truth of the matter is that, one, we weren't there present, and so we don't know what the conversation was. That's something that we would definitely want more contacts on. So if there are witnesses who can provide, there were people standing around, there were people present, we'd want those witnesses to be able to come forth and share what they heard. However, we do have to get to the place where we understand what the standard is in regards to things like flirting, in regards to things like being flirtatious and having making passes at someone, or saying that, we're just kind of trying to get to know one another. When alcohol is involved, unfortunately, inhibition does go down. However, we have to set a firm standard that if you're meeting someone and introducing yourself to them, you putting your hands on their body isn't acceptable unless they give you consent. And that's what's missing in this entire conversation, is knowing whether or not this young lady gave consent to be touched. If she gave the inclination that she were, looking to touch him or have a physical relationship, then we can garner that from the people who were around them, who may have, picked up on that in conversation or the videotape. But if it doesn't show that she opened herself up or that she said, I consent to this, then we have an issue. And so at this point in 2019, we have to make sure that we're setting a fine line of definition that if I don't consent to you touching my personhood, you don't have that right.
So this is just one of a long list of powerful men in media now in trouble for their bad behavior. There's, Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, Matt Lauer, Charlie Rose, Les Moonves, Mark Halperin. I mean, this list just goes on and on and on. Is the argument or excuse of boys will be boys, is that over in today's day of Me Too? Deanna?
Well, I don't think that boys will be boys necessarily relates to rape or sexual harassment or anything, but I do think that there is, being a relationship coach, I know that there is a dance to flirting and to courtship and to the whole attraction process, and it starts with usually the man initiating things, right? We can't deny that it starts with the man initiating things. It starts with a flirtation going on, and then you kind of go from there. So we're at this point now where boys don't want to even fall into that role anymore because they're too afraid. A lot of men of any kind of sexual harassment charges thrown against them. As we have seen, women continue to move that goalpost. Some women think even a joke is considered sexual harassment at this point, a joke that they don't approve of. So this could actually destroy the entire courtship and dating process, where women might end up regretting it afterwards. They might think, wow, why is no man approaching me anymore? Why isn't any guys flirting with me and getting to that stage? Well, it's because a lot of men have just kind of, they've had that instinct beaten out by them, by women who are throwing the sexual harassment assault charges a little bit too haphazardly. And we, again, like what she said, we have to decide what is actual sexual assault and rape and what is just someone's, someone mistaking that for something else.
Reese, what are your thoughts on that? What's your take? Has Me Too kind of changed this whole dating culture, the dynamic of dating?
I think what we're at is a critical peak. We're at a very critical place where we're having a conversation where we can change what the standard is, and it's so important. Here's why. For too long, it's been acceptable for a person, a male, to pursue women and to say things like, oh, she wants it, she just doesn't know it, or I've got to push her and force her to want something that she may not necessarily want. What we're deciding now is that women do have the ability to say what they want to participate in, how much flirting they're interested in, and how far they want things to go. We're now finding our voice, and that's a critical moment in our history. We've never been here before. And so because we've now found our voice, it's imperative that we set a very firm boundary in defining what consent is, defining what sexual harassment is, defining what sexual assault is. If a person touches you and it's unwelcome, that's unfortunately sexual assault. And so, yes, there are such things as grades to that. If you slap someone in a classroom, it's called simple assault. And so we have to be clear about what the grades of those are, and maybe we don't destroy a person for something as simple assault or simple sexual assault, but at the same time, we are having a conversation where women are able to say, I'm interested in you, but get to know me and keep your hands to yourself.
Deanna, you wanted to jump in there.
I mean, I think it's unrealistic to, if you're at a bar and you've had some drinks, to have a man ask, hey, do you think I can touch your arm right now? Can I touch your shoulder right now? Can I make this joke right now to my buddy who you happen to be overhearing? I think a lot of these things actually does kill the romance, or it's just totally unrealistic. And it also seems like there's a double standard here. It seems like women go around, and I've seen it, women go around touching a lot of guys at bars too, a lot of times inappropriately, and they can have inappropriate jokes, and yet you don't see as many men calling that sexual harassment, and it should go both ways. But we really, again, we need to set that standard, and we also need to know what's realistic or not, and what's going to create long-term consequences that women might not actually like in the end.
Yeah, ladies, it looks like we are definitely seeing a cultural shift. We will see in a few years how this all ends. Deanna Lorraine and Reese Esq, ladies, thank you so much for our talk today.
Thank you.